productivity is a game of two halves. One half is efficiency, and the other half is effectiveness. Right? We are effective when we generate and produce outcomes, right? Or outputs. Outputs or outcomes. And efficiency is based upon the time frame through which we deliver these outputs, right? So productivity is about us producing outcomes or delivering outputs in a time-efficient manner, which is what we all want. Why? Because our clocks are all ticking, right? Your clocks are ticking, my clocks are ticking. Remember that COVID-19 pandemic? There was a whole loads of people whose clocks stopped ticking through that, which means that we can't take life for granted, can we? Oh no, no siree. So let us see if we can take a bit of time here to identify some blocks to hyper-personal efficiency, all right? Just to be clear here, that hyper-efficiency isn't a unique thing, it's just efficiency. I'm just using the word hyper. I'm not really sure why I used the word hyper, just because it sounds cool, doesn't it? All right, so we need to take a little bit of time here just to look at you. Perhaps some of the limiting ideologies that might stand in the way that prevent you from being as productive as what you could otherwise be. So first things first, learned helplessness, right? You ever felt helpless? You ever felt hopeless? You ever felt like you're the victim? Perhaps you've been wronged, you're the hard done by one. Many people go through life singing this song. You don't know how hard it's been for me. Oh, what I've been through. I'm the only person in the world who knows hardship. There was a story, all right, I haven't told this story for years actually. There was a lady back, remember the Indonesian tsunami? Well, when the Indonesian tsunami hit, obviously, hundreds of thousands of people were killed in that horrific world event. And this is a story. I'm not sure how true the story is, but I'm going to tell you it nonetheless because it carries with it a principle that I want you to embrace here. This lady walking around her village, in the aftermath of this tsunami, she'd lost her family, she'd lost her children, her husband, her home, she'd lost everything. All right, and she was heartbroken. She was absolutely crushed by this experience. So she was kind of walking around the streets, and she was kind of calling out, will someone please help me? Will someone come to my aid? Will someone come and heal me? My life is full of sorrow. My life is full of so much hardship. Oh, the pain and the suffering I've endured. Oh my goodness, I've lost it all. And there was an older wise lady kind of on the streets who'd also survived the tsunami, and she said to this lady who was walking around, said, listen, if you were to kind of go out of the village, walk up into the hills, you'll find that the wise man, the prophet, who lives kind of up amongst the trees, if you go in and ask this man for a seed, all right, you'll be able to use this seed to soak up the sorrow in your own life. And the only reason why this will work is because the seed must come from a person who knows no sorrow. All right? In order for a person to alleviate your sorrow, they must themselves know no sorrow. So this lady said, fine, sounds great to me. I know so much distress and so much hurt. I must go and find this person and get a seed from this individual who knows no sorrow. So off she went on her pilgrimage. She ended up, took her a couple of days to get there, and she knocked on the door, and this kind of wise old man appeared. And she said, listen, I'm on a quest to find, I need a seed from a home or from a person that knows no sorrow, because I've been told that if I can get the seed, I can use the seed to soak up all the sorrow and all the hardship from my own life. And the old guy said, listen, up until a month or so ago, listen, I didn't know any sorrow, but this tsunami, I've lost loved ones, I've lost friends, my business has been severely impacted. I'm terribly sorry, but I know sorrow. So I cannot be the person who gives you the seed. I have many seeds, but I know sorrow, which means it won't work. But perhaps you could try in one of the other villages or one of the other townships. So the lady was focused now. She needed to get this seed from a home that knew no sorrow, to soak up a sorrow in her own life. And she went into this other town, and she went around the streets, and she was knocking on different doors. Excuse me, I'm looking for someone who knows no sorrow, who knows no hardship, who knows not what it is to hurt. And she couldn't find anyone anywhere. What she did end up picking up along the way were some children who'd been orphaned, some children who'd lost their parents, didn't have anyone to care after them. She picked up a young baby, a young 14-year-old who was scared, who just needed a little bit of reassurance. And as she kind of walked the streets looking for a home that knew no sorrow, what she ironically ended up doing through the process was becoming a source of strength and hope and encouragement for all those others who knew so much sorrow, perhaps equally as much as her. Yes, she kept her sorrow didn't disappear, but she did play a part in alleviating some of the sorrow and the distress in others. All right, take from this story what you will. All right, it's an old fable. I don't know if there's any truth in this or not, but learned helplessness. You know, sometimes some people go through life and have an experience, don't they? Right, my wife and I had a miscarriage. All right, it was a horrible experience. It was heartbreaking. It really was. It took us a few days. We decided we've got to shake this off. All right, we can't wallow in this. All right, because we knew another couple who had wallowed in a number of miscarriages, and we knew that we couldn't do this. It was one of these things. All right, it doesn't mean anything. It just means that miscarriages happen. Learned helplessness is an attitude that people adopt when people assume that they're unable to learn, grow, develop, or mature. You know, it's kind of like my circumstances are as they are, I am as I am, and I cannot change. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm a victim, I'm hard done by, I know hurt, I know pain, I know suffering. I do not have what I want in life, and I am a victim because of this. And this is just a block to hyper-efficiency, because when a person views themselves as a helpless victim, right, a victim of their own circumstances, they've already chosen to accept that there's nothing they can do or that they will do to alleviate the circumstances. So it blocks all efficiency, it blocks all growth, it blocks everything. Knowledge without context, and this is an interesting one, right? How many productivity books have you read? How many YouTube videos have you watched on how to get focused and how to stay focused? And how many of these have served you? Because I guess if you've read books and you've watched courses and you've read articles and that served you in some way, you wouldn't be here right now, because you'd be out there being super efficient and super effective. Knowledge without context. It's possible to be a knowledgeable fool. It's possible to know the answers in one's mind without understanding the applications required in one's heart. Does that make sense? Let me explain. This is where a person has much knowledge, but no experiential context by which to relate the knowledge. Right, I could say to you that you can only be effective in life to the degree that you can sense you are progressing towards your vision. Now, I know what I mean by that. All right, if I was not to explain that in any further depth, you might very well just be kind of writing all this down and saying, yeah, this is good stuff, it makes sense on the head level. But if you can't relate to this, because you're not doing anything that's giving you any context to relate to this idea, then you're not going to grow to understand it. It's one thing knowing something, then it's something else understanding something. We grow in understanding, we grow in insight, we grow in wisdom through experience. Two types of knowledge exist. We have intellectual knowledge, and then we have experiential knowledge, right? I'm presenting these ideas from a place of experience, not knowledge, all right? No one has given me this information. No one else in the world can come along and accredit this training course or certify this training course or anything like this. Not that you need a certificate or accreditation in personal efficiency, all right? But some people will ask for it. I've been doing this for long enough to know. All the knowledge in the world means nothing to you if you have no understanding on how to apply it. All right, so knowledge without context is going to be a block to your hyper-personal efficiency. We become efficient in life when we understand how to apply principles. You might not understand how to apply principles right now, that's okay, but you can get started right now. That's the good news. Unidentified opportunity. I'm going to tie this in with an idea that I've shared previously, if that's okay. Connect all these dots together. People have a tendency to resist challenge. People have a tendency to resist difficulty or confrontation instead of embracing it and growing. All right? I don't want to sound like a broken record here. Apologies if I am sounding like a broken record here. My wife and I had a miscarriage. It hurt. It was a hard experience. all right? Rather than going our own separate ways and her going away to speak to her own therapist and me going to speak to a counsellor and talking off our woes, we had to kind of work hard. We had to embrace the challenge. It was one of these things, nothing that either of us could do about it. It wasn't my fault, it wasn't hers. She wasn't a bad person, I wasn't a bad person. It's just one of these life experiences. Millions of other people in the world have had this experience. We weren't victims because of this. It just happened. It was just a challenge. All right. What I'm sharing with you here is the attitude that I take towards challenge and difficulty. Right? I'm being straight. You want to get productive in life, you want to get efficient in life, you want to get effective in life, you're going to have to develop some tough skin. And there's going to be a lot of people out there, empaths, who will say, but life is an emotional experience. One must allow oneself to experience an emotion. Yeah, that's fine. It's wise. I'm not undermining that idea. But what I'm saying is there's a time to mourn and then there's a time to get on. All right, there's a time to mourn and then there's a time to get on. Right, I know a lady who lives local who lost a friend just over 12 months ago. The funeral happened, people attended the funeral. 12 months on, this lady is holding a memorial of this lady, scattering the ashes into the wind and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, I've been invited to this thing and I ain't going because I'm moving on in my life. There's an old proverb, let dead things stay dead, all right? And let the dead bury their own dead. Right, we're talking about death here, not because I want to go all morbid on you and all doom and gloom, but to give you a little bit of perspective. Are you focusing on things that are going to bring life to you, or are you focusing on things that just bring death and devastation and destruction to you? Because I could focus on how I may have influenced that miscarriage. And you know what? I had a couple of beers one night. All right, I'm not as fit as what I could be. You know, I like burgers and chips every now and again and greasy foods. You know, perhaps it was something to do with, you know, the food that I'd ate, or perhaps it was those 2 beers, or maybe I could have done more exercise, or maybe it was just a random event. Maybe there was nothing I could do about it. Maybe it's just one of these things. All right, what I'm saying is everyone has stuff. Challenges come along. When challenges come your way, you can allow them to crush you like a 10-ton weight on your head. Or when you start feeling the burden of challenge, you get it off your shoulders as quickly as possible, you get it on the floor, you stand upon it, and it becomes a new set of foundations in your life. Metaphorically speaking, we're talking a lot about foundations here. There's maybe a reason for this. Maybe you're starting to catch what I'm cooking and getting the gist of what I'm saying. Identified opportunity. Challenges come our way to test us and to grow us. And this is where many people fail. Because many people look at challenges, many people look at difficulties and confrontation and say, I'm beat, I'm hard done by, because they have learned how to be helpless. You want to be productive, you want to be efficient, you want to be effective, you've got to get strong. All right? You know, I'm not talking about being dismissive of your life events. I'm just talking about making peace with what is. All right, stuff happens, even to good people sometimes. Here's the other thing. If you're focusing on what you don't want, if you're focusing on challenges and difficulties, you're not going to be focusing on the opportunity that you have to grow and develop and overcome. And it's only when we focus on the ability and the opportunity that we have to grow and develop and overcome that we become more progressive, more efficient, more effective, more productive. So what you focus on will determine the fruits that you go on to produce in every single area of your life. In every single area of your life. Think about the woman who went on that quest to find the seed. She started out in helplessness. And as she was looking for someone to take responsibility for healing her and making her whole, she, as she went, picked up and become that source or that seed who soaked up some of the sorrow in other people's lives. Right? I'm not talking about you getting out there and having a big pity party or becoming the host of a pity party. I'm certainly not saying that. I'm just saying, consider where your focus is at, right? What you're focusing on. Undeveloped vocabulary, right? I'll put my hand up in the air and say, you know, first person in the world to say, just in case you're thinking about complaining about my imperfect communication, I'm an imperfect communicator. Sorry, I was born this way, right? No one trained me how to communicate perfectly. If you do have a problem with my communication style, maybe you could write me a letter and let me know how you communicate perfectly, right? it's not about being perfect in life, is it? It's about doing the best with what we have, all right? Think about it, right? Two people in the world, you and then someone over there, can be watching this video right now. You're taking one thing, you may be likey or you may be dislikey, right? Let's just say that you dislikey. That's okay, because person over there, they're looking at this from a very different perspective. They likey. So they're looking at this course because they're desperate to find some idea or some perspective that's going to help them reevaluate the state of their life. Perspective is about where we're looking from. Focus is all about what we're looking at. Right? So two people can be looking at the same thing from two different perspectives and therefore see two different things. Another example here. Say, for example, you and I were to go on a hiking expedition together. Right? We both approach a mountain in Scotland, Glen Nevis. Right? Glen Nevis, beautiful part of Scotland. So I start the hike, the ascent on the west. From the west, you start on the east. As I'm climbing up the west, what I'm looking at in front of me, cliff face, rocks, boulders, really rough terrain. But from your perspective, what you're looking at is a smooth path. There's a pathway that's been carved out. So I'm climbing up my side and you're climbing up your side, and we've got walkie-talkies. We've gone old school. We're not using mobile phones, we're going back to walkie-talkies. So we're say again over, we're communicating, and I'm saying, yeah, I'm facing some real rough terrain. Yeah, I'm really struggling over here. And you're across this side, just saying, what are you talking about? There's no rough terrain. It's easy, it's just a path. You're deluded. Man up, grow up. And undeveloped vocabulary. Some people cannot see that the way that they see things is just how they see things. How you see things is based upon your perspective, where you're standing. How I see things is based upon where I'm at, where I'm standing. It's also based upon my experience in life. So say, for example, you've had a different set of life experiences than me, and I've had a different set of life experiences than you. That means that we're both going to have different perspectives. So when I say something that perhaps might not resonate with you, it's not because I'm foolish or because I'm wrong, it's just I have a different perspective than you. So guess what happens when you ask questions around my perspective? Yours might not change, or yours might become expanded. Interesting. All right, so we're forever going to struggle in life if we are unable to, or we haven't learned how to communicate our perspective. Right? If you cannot communicate your perspective, then no one's ever going to see your point of view. All right? This is the hallmark of any good teacher, and I'm certainly not positioning myself as a good teacher. I'm just saying I'm a teacher. I may be an okay teacher. Who knows? I don't know. A person must be able to articulate their perspective and their intentions clearly to be understood and not misjudged. Some people are not ready to consider any other perspective that differs from their own. Well, guess what? You want to be productive in life. You want to be effective. You can get so far on your own, but you'll get further with others.